We have time for one more question. I'm sure you'll be around after for any additional questions.
You said that your method in the American Studies Institute is to look at an artifact and figure out what it means. So you've got the Turnpike and the George Washington Bridge. Do you have a list of other significant artifacts of New Jersey?
Oh, well, maybe I misspoke. I don't mean that the American Studies method is to look at an artifact. That's just one method you could use. We do a lot of other kinds of things in American Studies. These are the only two artifacts that I've written about. My other books are about other things. I write fiction, I do a lot of journalism, and I just sort of work in film a little bit. So I sort of go back and forth. A lot of people say, how do you do this? Go back and forth between different media. I said, oh yeah, it helps if you're schizophrenic, you know. I like going back and forth and between, even though you have to sort of flip a switch, especially for fiction. Fiction is the most difficult for me. You write a book like this, you basically find out everything you can about the George Washington Bridge, you have some adventures on it, you write the book. Basically, American Studies is an interdisciplinary field. And those who like us, and we like us, say that we're really doing what historians should do, say, which is basically cultural history. I mean, when I went to school, it was all political and military history. It was all wars and presidents, American history. In American Studies, we're more interested in how do people live? What do they think? What are their ideas? What are their values and assumptions? What are they doing in their popular culture? What does this tell us about who they really are? So when I do a book, I'm as interested in history and literature and art as I am in this case, in engineering, political science. Those who don't like us or put us down say, well, we're jacks of all trade, masters of none, you know. And those who do like us saying that we're doing the real history, we are the ones who are looking at the whole picture, the culture as a whole. And this remains a debate. Basically, American Studies was founded as a gesture of revolt against history and English departments. It was people who, history and literature departments, but they have changed their ways. They're much more culturally oriented than they once were. And so we were like the renegades in the beginning. And I remember getting a letter from Tom Wolfe at one point, because he got his PhD from Yale in American Studies before he became a writer. And Tom Wolfe wrote back and he said, yeah, we who are the American Studies commandos, he called us. And we were commandos, I guess, and we're on the barricades, if you will, back before there were interdisciplinary programs. But then we were on the receiving end of other revolts. Women came along and said, hey, whatever happened to women in American history? African Americans came along, whatever happened to African Americans? Gay people came along, whatever, et cetera, all of Latinos, et cetera. And so you began to have, and we have all of these departments now at Rutgers. And we have a sort of a brother-sister relationship with them, but you sometimes wonder whether we might all do a better job if we combined in some kind of way. Because they came along saying, you know, you're ignoring so much of American cultural history. If you're doing cultural history, do it. I mean, I wrote an article one time called The Concord Complex, and it was a critique of American Studies. And it was saying, there I was at the University of Minnesota with lots of Native Americans, and in 4 years I was there, I never heard anything about Native Americans, for example. We were obsessed with Concord, Massachusetts, and the Puritans. Yeah, the Puritans, and then Ralph Waldo Emerson, and all, not to put down the figures of the American Renaissance, so to speak, of the 19th century, Hawthorne and Emerson, Thoreau, Melville, etc., Whitman, not to put any of these people down, but it seemed that we were just stuck there. And since we were stuck there, these other departments have come along. And as I say, we have a rather uneasy relationship with them. So you might ask, well, if they're taking care of all the different kinds of, if they're taking care of diversity, that we're not all white Anglo-Saxon Protestant male heterosexual, you know, if they're taking care of that, what do you guys do? And I still think we have a role. I think our role is to study and engage ourselves with the common denominators. What do we share, if anything? We who are the most diverse nation in the world, we who are the United Nations in miniature, racially, religiously, ethnically, national origin, etc., what do we study? And my assumption, the assumption under which I operate, is that despite all this diversity, there is also a unity. You know, e pluribus unum, there's also the unum, and that my job is to study the unum part of it. So I still have or maybe it's just a rationalization because I like my job and don't want them to do away with American studies. Now that it's been bifurcated into so many chunks of other kinds of studies, all of which are valid, I think. But again, I think our job is to find what do we share. And I think we share a lot. I have a rather diverse response to your question.
Thank you, Michael.
Oh, my pleasure. Let me clap for you. Thank you for coming.